during this full-scale invasion of Russian Federation against Ukraine, it has felt as one of the safest regions in Ukraine.
One of the most powerful military brigades of the armed forces of Ukraine, the 128th Mountain Assault Brigade.
Найбільше мене здивувало, коли я побачила пиво, яке вироблене у Штатах, в Сполучених Штатах, у США. Його можна купити в звичайному ужгородському супермаркеті.
Hello and welcome to Ukrainian Flames, a special project by Ukraine Media Center and Endure Euro-Atlantic course. My name is Anton Pechenkin, and today we will talk about Zakarpattia, Westernmost Ukrainian region during the war. If you want to know more, please subscribe to our channel to stay tuned and support us with your likes and commentaries. We read attentively every one of them. Though the Russian aggression against Ukraine started in 2014 and de facto lasts since then, the vast majority of the Ukrainians remained unaffected by it. Of course, there were Ukrainian heroes from every region of Ukraine, and the politically active part of the Ukrainian society raised in support of our country is no matter of the region. But only after the beginning of full-scale Russian invasion on February 24, every Ukrainian decisively understood we are all on a front line. The bright example of it is Zakarpattia or Transcarpathia region. It is the westernmost oblast of Ukraine, divided from the rest of the country by the high and wooded Carpathian Mountains. Zakarpattia borders with 4 countries, members of the NATO and European Union: Poland, Slovakia, Hungary, and Romania. And now this region plays its important role in the whole nation fight for the freedom. Not to spend more time now, welcome Ivanna Klympush-Tsintsadze, Ukrainian Member of Parliament and Chair of the Committee on European Union Integration. Ms. Klympush-Tsintsadze comes from this region of Ukraine, and she will explain its peculiarity and changes during the whole-scale invasion.
Transcarpathian region, Zakarpattia region, is the most western part of Ukraine. And definitely during this full-scale invasion of Russian Federation against Ukraine, it has felt as one of the safest regions in Ukraine. Nevertheless, it doesn't mean that the war is not felt here. Air sirens are going off quite frequently. The region has been also hit once by Russian rocket. Thank God none of the civilians has died in that brutal attack of Russian Federation. However, there is definitely psychological tension, and there is a full understanding that this part of Ukraine also has to provide its input to defend the country. And that is exactly what is happening. The territorial defense of the region, as well as one of the important brigades that is usually located in the region, are participating in the war right now, and on the forefront of this war, defending the country. And that means that unfortunately a lot of families in Transcarpathia have already had to suffer the losses of their loved ones, and many families are also waiting, defenders of the country, to come back with a victory home. The region has been seen as a humanitarian hub for a lot of humanitarian assistance that is pouring in from the Western countries, and a lot of people have engaged in volunteer activities on the ground. The volunteer movement has been present there from 2014, but definitely since February 24th of 2022, this movement has grown immensely, and that means that people have been trying to arrange for the logistics of all this humanitarian aid coming from abroad to be immediately delivered to the most needed places across the country. That means that a lot of people have been welcoming refugees and internally displaced people coming by cars, coming by trains to the region, and trying to help them either to find a place to stay inside Transcarpathia, across the region, or helping them to find the possibility to flee if they wanted to in the other European countries. And the whole mood of support and unity is still very much present in this region.
Another important point about Zakarpattia is that it has several significant ethnic minorities, which also differs this region from the rest of Ukraine. Let's listen to Ivanna Klympush-Tsintsadze on that issue.
A very special trait of Transcarpathia is that it is a very multi-ethnic region. There are a lot of Ukrainian citizens of Hungarian origin, of Romanian origin, Roma origin, Slovak, German, Russian, Jewish origin living in this region along with Ukrainians. And all of them have been over centuries living in mutual respect and friendship. And therefore, all the attempts to present some tensions between Ukrainians and Hungarians, or Ukrainians and Romanians, for example, in this region, definitely are coming from the Russian Federation. Some of the most vivid cases of such provocation to spur tensions between Ukrainians, for example, and Hungarians was made back in 2017, when there was an attempt to put on fire the building of the Hungarian Cultural Society and accuse Ukrainian so-called nationalists in this action. Thank God, because of the efficient work of Ukrainian law enforcement, it turned out that it had nothing to do with Ukrainian nationalists or so-called nationalists. It had to do actually with Russian engagement, who were working through some of their puppets through Transnistria, and even finding some people in Poland to carry out this crime. So therefore, people of all nationalities who live today in Transcarpathia, they share the same interest as people of Ukrainian nationality to defend the country, to ensure that Ukraine is sovereign, free and independent. And that's why they are engaging in volunteer work, also participating in the defense of the country by going and fighting in this brutal war of Russian Federation against Ukraine, and they are contributing by their work in making Ukraine stronger. So we are hopeful that this mood will be preserved in Transcarpathia, and no external intrusion will change this approach.
Our second speaker today is Dmytro Tuzhanskyi, political expert and director of the Institute of Central European Strategy. In his speech, Dmytro focuses on how the local people mobilized themselves after February 24, despite all the pessimistic forecasts.
For the first 2 months of the Russian full-scale invasion of Ukraine, Zakarpattia remained a region where there were no missile attacks. However, precisely on May 3rd, after the Russian rocket destroyed a railway infrastructure object in the mountainous area of the region, it became clear that, unfortunately, in no part of Ukraine, even in the most remote regions under the very borders of the EU and NATO, no one can feel safe. Of course, in the first days after the Russian invasion, as in the whole of Ukraine, there were different moods in Zakarpattia, including some panic, depression, but at the same time, the region continued to remain stable, mobilized, peaceful. There was no curfew in Zakarpattia, with the exception of a temporary shortage of fuel. The life of the region still, fortunately, retains many signs of peaceful life. It was in Zakarpattia, in Uzhhorod, on May 8th, on International Mother's Day, that the First Ladies of the USA, Joe Biden, and Ukraine, Olena Zelenska, met. For a long time, Russia and pro-Russian media created a stereotype that Transcarpathia can, and at some point will repeat the fate of Crimea and Donbass, that this region has separatist sentiments. Even now, you can find a lot of misinformation and disinformation about this. But none of this came true either before February 21st or after that. Transcarpathia has become a reliable backup of Ukraine and humanitarian hub. From the first day of the Russian invasion, Transcarpathia turned into one big Maidan, or a large number of small Maidans. It was the feeling that everyone started volunteering, from the meeting people at the train station and hosting refugees in their own homes, to preparing breakfasts, lunches, and dinners in the countless quantities, as well as collecting humanitarian aid and everything necessary for the military, civilians, collecting funds for cars, equipment, etc., etc. Transcarpathia showed not just only humanity, but also the will to fight and to resist and justify Russian aggression. By the way, let's not forget that one of the most powerful military brigades of the armed forces of Ukraine, the 128th Mountain Assault Brigade, is based in Transcarpathia in peaceful time. In addition, several territorial defense battalions from the Transcarpathia are currently on the front line. In the first months after the invasion, Transcarpathia hosted about 400,000 internally displaced people. The Transcarpathia region is one of the leaders in the country in terms of the number of relocated enterprises. Currently, there are already approximately 400 of them. It is worth noting that the Zakarpattia region has also become a place for the relocation of educational and cultural institutions. Just one example. On July 18th, actors from the bombed drama theater of Mariupol gave a performance in Uzhhorod exactly 4 months after the Russians dropped a powerful bomb on the building of the drama theater in Mariupol. Actors of the theater staged a play about Vasil Stus, Cry of the Nation.
In his second piece of speech, Dmytro lists the most significant humanitarian initiatives of the region and debunks the myth about Hungarian separatism in Transcarpathia, however, criticizing the policy of Hungarian incumbent government of Viktor Orban, who proved himself as the main Putin-Versteiner in the European Union.
Unfortunately, I cannot list all the initiatives that have arisen in Zakarpattia since February 21st because there are so many, but I wanted to name 3 initiatives that, in my opinion, shape the image of Transcarpathia as a reliable backup of Ukraine. The first is the Transcarpathian military support movement led by Galina Yartseva. This is truly a movement, a volunteer movement, that has been operating in Zakarpattia not since February 21st, 2022, but since 2014, has maximum credibility and unites a large number of very bright and motivated people. The second is humanitarian hub on the basis of the Geleta restaurant in Nizhny Selishche near the city Khust. This restaurant of slow local cuisine was opened in the village just a year ago, in June 2021. The restaurant was immediately listed among the best restaurants of Ukraine according to NV magazine. And already in the spring 2022, the restaurant turned into a humanitarian hub where internally displaced people can still eat for free of charge. The third is my colleague and friend, the writer and translator Andriy Lyubka, who undertook to personally collect funds for the purchase of cars for the army, to buy and prepare these cars for sending to the front line, and himself and other volunteers to deliver these cars to the front line. So far, he has already purchased 24 cars. His volunteer work is an example of trust, transparency, commitment, and unity. These are the features that make Ukraine unique and stable in today's fight against the Russian invasion. In recent years, in particular after the Russian invasion, the next to the topic of Transcarpathia constantly arises the question of Hungary and its attitude towards Russian aggression, support for Ukraine, and actual assistance to the Hungarian community in Ukraine, which lives compactly in the Transcarpathia region along the border. Unfortunately, Viktor Orban and the official Budapest today take the position of appeasing Russia, criticize anti-Russian sanctions, refuse to supply Ukraine with weapons, and allow the transit of weapons for Ukraine through Ukrainian-Hungarian border. Although, at the same time, Hungary supported 6 packages of sanctions, called to immediate ceasefire and also voted for granting Ukraine the status of candidate for the membership of the European Union, hosts Ukrainian refugees, and sends humanitarian aid to Ukraine. Such a dual policy of the ruling team in Hungary actually divided the Hungarian community in Ukraine, a part of which continues to fully support Viktor Orban's line, and another part, despite not always publicly, but disappointed by such policy, feels that Hungarian politicians sacrificed them. Therefore, Hungary's position regarding Russian aggression and support for Ukraine today is very controversial, but not hopeless. The independence and sovereignty of Ukraine is also a strategic interest of Hungary. This vision should prevail over any benefits of gas or oil contract with Russia.
Our last guest for today is Ksenia Shokina, a journalist from Uzhhorod, capital of Zakarpattia. With a big attention to everyday details and interesting insights, Ksenia describes the daily life of the region, from the real estate prices to the variety of beer in the supermarkets. Word to Ksenia.
Вітаю, дякую за надане слово. Коротко розповім вам про ситуацію на Закарпатті. Взагалі на Закарпаття почали приїжджати люди ще до початку повномасштабного вторгнення. Вже за 2 тижні, 10 днів почався помітний рух на ринку нерухомості. Це мені розповідала місцева ріелторка, яка говорила, що першими почали їхати кияни і харків'яни про всяк випадок. Саме тоді розібрали дуже багато квартир за адекватні ціни, і потім уже коли почали приїжджати люди масово, то, відповідно, попит був величезний, а пропозицій було мало, і, відповідно, ціни почали рости, так, як ми знаємо про це, на жаль. Але дуже багато людей прийняло людей із зон бойових дій безкоштовно. Зараз, за офіційними даними Закарпатської ОВА, на території області знаходиться 153 тисячі людей. В Ужгородському районі це близько 20 тисяч, і третина із них діти. Однак дуже був помітний колосальна кількість людей в Ужгороді в перші тижні, і було, за неофіційними даними, це було близько 500 000 людей, які приїхали на Закарпаття, тому що потрібно розуміти, що багато людей їхало своїми автомобілями, багато людей не ставали на облік як внутрішньо переміщені особи, хтось зупинявся у знайомих, хтось орендував житло, і таким чином остаточних і достовірних цифр немає. Зараз дуже багато людей вже повиїжджали, багато хто повернувся на деокуповані території, а ті, кому повертатися вже немає куди, або в їхніх областях досі тривають бойові дії, ті залишаються тут, хтось виїхав за кордон. Зараз із-за кордону так само багато людей повертається, але не можу сказати, що на кордонах зараз є великі черги. Також відновлюється в Україні туризм закордонний. Люди із різних областей, це не тільки закарпатці, це і одесити, кияни, тернополяни, львів'яни. Вони їдуть за кордон на кілька днів або на тиждень у такі автобусні тури, потім повертаються, але це дуже невеликий відсоток людей, але автобусні тури або тури на море кудись так само є. І так само хочу зауважити, що Закарпаття зараз лідирує за кількістю, серед лідерів за кількістю релокованих підприємств. Область прийняла понад 300 підприємств, зокрема велика кількість це представники IT-сфери, так само якісь текстильні виробництва, деревообробні виробництва, вироби зі шкіри, тобто ті підприємства, які не будуть шкодити довкіллю і, зокрема, закарпатській природі. Щодо ситуації в магазинах, то на початку полиці були пусті, особливо полиці великих торгових мереж, супермаркетів. Часто бракувало якихось товарів. В першу чергу бракувало товарів, які викуповували для того, щоб відправити на фронт. Це чаї, засоби гігієни, там якісь товари першої необхідності. Згодом ситуація почала вирівнюватися. Зараз, в принципі, усе є. Ціни дещо піднялися, але, в принципі, можна купити усі товари, дуже багато товарів імпортних. Найбільше мене здивувало, коли я побачила пиво, яке вироблене у Штатах, в Сполучених Штатах, у США. Його можна купити в звичайному ужгородському супермаркеті. Щодо того, що які діють обмеження, то є обмеження на продаж міцних алкогольних напоїв. Їх можна купувати лише до якоїсь там години, напевно, до 8, якщо я не помиляюся. А пиво і вино можна купувати і пізніше. Цілодобові магазини, супермаркети, вони також можуть працювати.
You have been watching this special project by Ukraine Media Center and enjoy your authentic course dedicated to the Russia-Ukraine war, Ukraine in Flames. In description, there is also information how personally you can help us in our fight for our freedom, and if you find our job interesting and useful, please subscribe to our channel and share this video. Thank you for watching, and everything will gonna be Ukraine.